Hello, so today I would like to share with you a few things from our week. It's a really fun dessert that we made, a cake that is very simple and easy, 3 simple living tips or thoughts, a simple soup recipe, and what we've been doing this week and some thoughts that go along with it. So on Friday last week, Esther had her 9th birthday party. And she'd already had her birthday a couple of weeks ago during the holidays when she was at my parents'. So we waited to have a birthday party with friends from school till last week. And she wanted to have a bird-themed party, so she wanted a bird cake. So I looked for some easy bird ideas because I'm not very good at cake decorating. And so anyway, I came up with one which was quite simple and easy. I still actually found it quite hard because I'm not very good at doing cakes, but it is a simple one for decorating a cake. But the day before was Thursday, and my husband doesn't work on Thursdays, so he has that day free to work on other things. And because we've been renovating our kitchen this last Thursday, he used that day to do some work on our kitchen. Now the last few weeks we haven't done a whole lot on the kitchen, but he's ordered the new kitchen now and he has started to do some work on it again. So it was a little bit daunting as I needed to make a birthday cake, and yet my kitchen seemed a bit of a big mess. But anyway, because I had a very easy, simple cake recipe, which I usually use for just about every birthday cake, it wasn't that hard because I could just get out the cake mixer and I just put all the ingredients in at the same time, mixed it all together, put it in the oven, and it was done. So it is a very easy recipe, and it is dairy free as well. It has no milk or butter. So I made that cake and then I made it into a bird. And she also wanted dirt pudding, which is an American recipe, I think. I'm not sure how many people will know about that pudding, so I thought I would share it in case you don't know, because it is quite a fun one, especially for children to make. And I didn't actually stick to a recipe, but the way I made it turned out, I did a double lot because we had other children here. And Hannah helped me make it. So the simple living tips. The other day after school, me and Esther were playing Monopoly Deal. Now, I don't know if you know how that game works, but the winner is the first person to get 3 full sets of property cards. So Esther pretty quickly won. She got 3 sets But that was all she had. She had no other property at all. So she had 3 sets and she had a little bit of money. She hardly had any money, but she managed to win with what she had. But she looked at my cards, and I had all these different properties, and she looked at her cards and she said, I've got hardly any cards. And I said to her, well, you have everything you need to win. You know, you've got the perfect cards. And yet for her, she felt like she had hardly any cards at all. And straight away I could see in her myself, because sometimes I think I have hardly any of this or that, and maybe I look at what other people have, or I look at what I have and I think I've got hardly any, I must need more. So maybe it is money. There are times that we don't have a whole lot of money, and yet like Esther, we might have everything that we need, have food, clothes, a home, and yet we feel like we have hardly any just because we don't have lots of extra. And sometimes we might feel like we don't have enough clothes because we don't have a whole lot of clothes. And yet if you have clothes that are comfortable and that can fit you and that you feel good wearing, you don't, and especially ones that can mix and match a little bit, you don't actually need a huge amount of clothes. And so there have been times where I felt like I don't have a whole lot of clothes, and yet they're all clothes that I enjoy wearing, so I don't really need that many. And maybe with stuff, you might feel like you just don't have a whole lot, and yet if you have the things you need and the things you like, then you don't actually need that much. And it might be the same with time. You might feel like I've got hardly any time, and yet if you have time to do the things that you need to do, then you have enough time. We might just not have time to do all the things that we would like to do, but we have time to do whatever God wants us to do, because He doesn't give us things to do and not time to do it. But we may not have time to do all the things that we would like to do. And it may be the same with friends. You might feel like you've got hardly any friends, but if you have a few good friends, that might be all you need. You don't have to have heaps and heaps of friends. And if you're single, it could be encouraging to remember, if you feel like you don't have many options at all, well, remember that you only need one, the right one. If it's in God's plan for you to marry, you only need one person. So if you feel like there's hardly anybody around, you don't need to worry about it, because you only need one, the right one. So just remember, if you feel like you don't have enough of something, look at what you do have and say, do I have what I need? So that simple living tip is, we don't need as much as we think we need. Like Esther felt like she didn't have enough, and yet she didn't need much. She just needed the right things. And I think we often think that we need way more than what we do. Maybe it's clothes or stuff in our homes. We don't actually need as much as we often think we do. I know I used to have a whole big shelf of towels. I don't know how many I had. I must have like 20 or so. But because I do washing pretty much every day, I noticed one day that I only ever used the top towels. And so now I just have one, a stack like this, rather than a whole big cupboard like that full of them. So at first I was a bit afraid to get rid of them, because I didn't want to have to rebuy towels. So I took out quite a few and put them in a bag and just put them away for a while to see if I actually missed them, and I didn't need them. Even now we've been using some towels for things in the kitchen. We still have enough towels. We really don't need that much. And it can be the same with all sorts of different things in your house. We often think we need way more than we actually do. Okay, and another tip is that an uncluttered and tidy house is much easier to clean. So if you think of floors, if you have stuff all over the floor, and especially things that kind of live just everywhere, it is hard to vacuum. I don't like to vacuum if there's bits and pieces all over the floor. But if you don't have too much stuff, especially if you don't have too many toys and bits and pieces, if you don't have too much, then you can keep it tidy every day. Every night you can tidy up, and then it's not hard to vacuum. But if every day there's all sorts of bits and pieces all over the floor, then it's no fun to vacuum and try to keep your floors clean. But if every day it gets picked up, it's not a big job to clean. It's much easier to clean. And so with your bookcases, if you have bits and pieces all over them, dusting is a nightmare, because you've got to pick everything up and put everything back. Whereas if your bookcases just have books or just have a few things, it's way easier to dust. I don't dust that often, but when I do, it's not usually, it just takes a few minutes. So yeah, for any surfaces, if if they're tidy and you don't have too much stuff and things are put away, it's not hard to clean. And another tip or thought is that when you have an uncluttered house, you can still get big messes, but it's a lot quicker to clean up. So the other day, I'd made somebody a meal and I'd gone and dropped it off before I did all the dishes because the people lived close by. And while I was out, it was the end of the school holidays, the children were home again, and I'd said that I would take them to a few little shops because they don't very often get to go look in shops and spend their money. So I said that I'll take you to the shops and you can have a quick look. So when we came back home, I think it was afternoon tea time, we had a cup of coffee and something to eat. And then Johan told me that somebody in about, I don't know, maybe 3/4 of an hour was going to be dropping into our house to visit us. And I looked around at my house and thought, oh no, the lounge was a bit of a mess, the table was a mess because we'd just been eating and drinking, the kitchen was still a mess because I still had all the dishes to clean up. And I thought, man, we've got to quickly get tidied up. I really don't like people coming when my house is like that. I like to have things in order and reasonable. So I asked the children to tidy up the lounge, and I tidied up the table and started washing the dishes. And maybe 10 minutes later, the lounge was tidy, the table was tidy, and I was getting on top of the dishes. And because every day we tidy up and put things away and we don't have too much stuff, and because every day we stay on top of the dishes, it was not a big job. It's only 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes at the most, and everything was back in order. And so, yeah, there are times when everything seems like a big mess. You think, oh no, it's such a big mess. And yet in 10 minutes, everything is picked up and put away. Okay, so, yeah, if you can keep your house uncluttered, then it is much easier to clean, much quicker to tidy up and get things back in order again. And the reason I tell you these things is I'm not trying to tell you how you should live. I'm just trying to share things that I found helpful, because I find it overwhelming and a big job to keep my house in order, and things like this have really helped me to get rid of a lot of our stuff that we don't need. For me has made a huge difference on how easy it is to keep my house clean and tidy. So I'm going to show you a little bit of what we did on Saturday. Johan was working on the kitchen, and I'll show you some of the things that we did. So today is Saturday, and as you can see behind me, Johan is working on the kitchen today. He's just gone out to get some more wood, and I have some bread that I needed to use up. So we already have leftovers for dinner tonight from Little Haven, so I don't need to cook dinner, but I did need to use up this bread. This one has herbs and cheese on it, and this one is pull apart bread. Somebody gave us this bread, but I wasn't sure how to use it because we had toast for breakfast, and this bread can just be a bit dry on its own. But then I thought I would use this recipe and make some soup to go with it. So this is a really simple, easy recipe, and you just need chicken breast, which I've just pulled out of the freezer, so I'm trying to defrost it, creamed sweet corn, salt, chicken stock cubes, corn flour, and boiled water for the chicken stock cubes, and this as well, sesame oil, which you don't have to have, but it gives it more of a Chinese corn soup flavor. So yeah, it is really easy. I think I've got the recipe on my blog already, so I'll link that. So we're going to have that for lunch and use up the bread at the same time. So this is what Johan has been doing. We used to have the pantry there, which he's taken out, and he's fixing up the floor there. And he's also putting in a bit of a false wall, I think, just so that whatever he puts there with the new kitchen, it will be at the right place. And our pantry is over here at the moment. This is the new school photo of the kids, and this is what Lydia made at school when she was learning about owls. I think it's really cute. In the afternoon, I took the children out. We went and played at our local park, and then I went and brought them all an ice cream, and we took it to a little park in our town that has a little lake and a little walkway and kind of like a little river that goes down to the lake. And it's actually one that people take to walk their dog, so it's more of a dog park, but I quite enjoy just taking the kids for a nice walk. and being the middle of the winter, the grass is all green and there's lots of water in the river and the lake, and it is quite beautiful. So I did that while Johanna was working on her kitchen. And Lydia, well, first we ate our ice creams, which turned out to be quite messy with Lydia. But after we finished our ice creams, we went for a walk around the park. And Lydia does not like to hold my hand, and she didn't want to walk on the pathway. She wanted to go everywhere else except for the path. And down one end of the park is where the water is in the little lake. And so I didn't want her running away. So I had to go bring her back because I didn't want her to end up in the water. So anyway, we kept on walking, and when we got down to the other end of the path, she again didn't want to go on the path. But because there was no water and there was no danger, I thought I'm just going to let her go. Because it's not much fun going for a walk and having to run after her all the time and try to make her hold my hand. And I thought, in this park there are lots of dogs, and I thought she's going to learn herself. If she's going to run away, she's going to end up with a dog coming towards her and mummy's halfway across the field. She's going to learn that that's not a good idea, that it's much more safe to stay close to me. So anyway, so I just kept on walking. I thought I'm just going to leave her. I know she's safe. And but Hannah kept going back to her and staying close by her because she wanted Lydia to have somebody with her. But I told her just come, because Lydia was staying way behind and I was, getting down the other end of the walkway again, and I told her just come and just leave her. And so in the end Hannah came to me, and the next minute some people came walking towards Lydia with dogs, and suddenly Lydia had a dog running straight towards her, and Lydia straight away started running towards me. And well, I hope it taught her that it's much safer to just stay by mummy and not to go on her own. But I thought it's kind of a good picture of what we can be like. We want to go our own way and do our own thing, and we might not want to be under authority. We want to do our own thing, and yet we're a bit like Lydia, wanting to do our own thing. We forget that there are dogs around that are scary, and yeah, we forget the dangers and the things that can make us afraid. We forget that the safest place is to stay close to God. Okay, so on Thursday, when Johan was working on the kitchen and I was making the cake, he took off 2 of the panels on the pantry. So in the middle of the pantry is like a door, and then there were 1 panel on each side that he took off. And I was a bit disgusted. When he took them off, there was like a nest of dead ants that had collected under there. And I don't know where they came from or how they happened to all be dead in there, and I have no idea how long they were in there. So I thought it was kind of disgusting, but they'd been there the whole time and I just didn't know it. And often when we do cleaning, like say if we pull things out, like I remember one time I pulled out our washing machine and it was all disgusting and dirty under there, and I hadn't known it was so disgusting under there. But when you take things away, like we took away the panel from the pantry, and if I took away the washing machine, you see all the filth and the dirt that is behind it. And I think it is in a picture of when things are taken away in our lives, even if it's just temporarily. Maybe it's money, we don't have much money. Just like when you take things away, you see all the dirt under it. When things are taken away from us, it brings out the nasty things in us. It brings out the wrong things in us that we don't realize is already there. And just like pulling away furniture and things in your house doesn't make dirt, the dirt is already there, you just don't see it because there's something on top of it. And I think when things are taken away from us, maybe it's our health, where it brings out a lot of things in us, maybe fear and questions and anger and worry and all those things. Maybe it's our time, we don't have any time, and it can bring out all the grumpiness and the stress. Maybe it's space, we don't have our own space, or we don't have enough space, or maybe it's our own privacy or our own home. I know when Lydia was in hospital, I couldn't come home for a long time. I was stuck in hospital, and so temporarily I lost my home. I lost my children for some of the time because they had to go up to mum and dad's. And yeah, it just brings out things in you that you are unaware of, and it can be quite discouraging to realize what you really are like. And I think Joni Eareckson says suffering is the textbook to teach us who we really are. But it's also good because when you take things away in your home, you clean it out. And yeah, when things are taken away in our lives and we see all the wrong things there, we can confess them to God and ask Him to forgive us, and then He can cleanse us. So those are my thoughts.